Om Shanti, good evening. Welcome to this session of interview with the Raj Yogi. And the topic we're exploring is staying spiritually vibrant. So as usual, we'll start with a reflection. I am aware that in the world today, there seems to be a high level of fatigue. Everything doesn't seem to last as long. Things break down more easily. The attention of souls is unable to concentrate focus. Very short-term attention, seeming to give up easily. Easily distracted, easily disheartened. And in this environment, in this atmosphere, I have to protect and sustain my own energy. Keep myself focused on the target I have set for myself spiritually. Not be distracted, not be disheartened, and be able to stay with the journey, although there may not be results for a very long time. Patient and resilient. Where does that kind of energy come from in today's world? It can't come from outside. That very powerful, patient, focused, enduring energy has to be generated from inside. The source of that kind of energy, that enthusiasm, it has to come from a spiritual place, an almost invisible place. Enthusiasm means to be filled with the energy or power of God. That when I, the soul, have a genuine connection with God, I'm able to receive from that being. This sustains my energy. Easily keeps me moving forward, undeterred. Connecting to the ocean of experiences, the one who can bestow what I'm seeking. That keeps me energized. Gives me the power to overcome obstacles and even maintains faith and trust in the self. Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Welcome to those who've just joined for Interview with Raj Yogi. Again, our topic is staying spiritually vibrant. And I was inspired by this slogan. Let's see if we can bring it up here. To forget your attainments is to become tired. So always keep your attainments in front of you. What do you feel? I feel that, first of all, this word attainments isn't something that's used in common day-to-day life, but it's relevant to everyone. But just using maybe just a more of a worldly example, someone who has perhaps maybe aiming to complete a project or going back to school or something like that. It feels like there's this common thread of just staying constant in your endeavor. And how have you felt for you that what is needed for that? I know that it was in the commentary. What is required to be able to have that? It's a big topic about that relationship with God. But is there something within myself that I need to bring on board?
I used to, when I first came into the study, I would ask long distance runners, marathon runners, how did they keep going? Because when one is running a long distance, first the glycogen or sugar stores are used up, and then the fat stores are used up, and then eventually the body starts to just eat itself, really, the muscle, and you hit the wall, your energy just bottoms out. And I wondered, like, what is going on inside of these souls to keep what energy? Because it's not, it's not really a physical energy at that point. Really, the body just wants to lie down and rest. So what I was so curious, because it is this point, how do you manage your energy? How do you keep yourself enthusiastic and energized, especially in the face of obstacles or opposition from inside or outside? So I would ask them, when the body is really fatigued and you hit the wall, how do you keep going? The question, why am I doing this, must come up. And there was a couple of things that they shared. One was, yes, they had have to have a very good answer to the word why. So this, what is, what this word attainment's a bit old English, but basically, what is in this for me? That's how we I know it sounds mercenary, but it's a bit how we operate right now, and it's okay. So what is in this for me? That has to be very clear, meaningful. That has to be vibrant, and constantly checking in that is what's going on, revising that, and making sure that what I'm doing is relevant to what I'm seeking. So that's all one piece of it. But the other is very interesting. They often describe the racing as a spiritual experience. It's quite a physical thing, but a spiritual experience in the sense that they really, they sort of got out of the body. The will is, why I'm doing this, but this idea of being able to almost detach from the body. So they actually felt very light. And that's a very beautiful thing to experience. There's two things every soul wants to experience. We call them liberation and liberation in life, or peace and happiness. And I think some of these runners we call it a runner's high. They're experiencing that liberation, or liberation in life, really, as we say, a Zen experience, and it becomes a little addictive. Yes, it's a very arduous way to get there, but that's really what's feeding them, is that feeling. So they are getting a spiritual attainment through a seemingly physical endeavor. And I think that spiritual attainment is very important to connect to.
When we were putting down the title, Staying Spiritually Vibrant, and perhaps being in the study for so many years, you really start to feel that everything is actually coming from a spiritual place, whether those are aware of it or not. It goes definitely beyond just a psychological, but it's something much more deeper. And so I found that it's relevant to everyone regardless, because you are looking for something that feeds you. Of course, is that temporary, or is that really feeds you the being is obviously the question. But something that came to mind, I was thinking about, like you were mentioning about this enthusiasm. And for yourself, again, like definitely want these questions to more aim towards what your experience is, what you practically feel or do. One of the things that has come up in conversations lately is that it's all based on my awareness. What has your experience been like watching yourself internally to see if your awareness is actually constant? Because I don't think that we really think about what that really even means, but because our attention goes all over the place and we're more used to something that's very physical. Let's say you're a doctor, you're in the room to do surgery. I don't think that awareness they ever lose sight of that awareness, but it's a very physical one. What has your experience been like in this study in terms of staying vibrant when you're having to be aware of what is this in it for me?
Awareness is in the study is important in terms of being able to receive what is in it for me, that peace and happiness. And so I found it very important for myself to have some clear indicators or experiences of when I'm in that awareness. It's easy to think I am a soul and everyone else is a soul, but not actually be feeling it. So I'm not getting any energy. So I wanted to have some very clear indicators of what that would feel like, that I'm really there. And we actually explored one in our class this morning. This is a big one that gives a lot of energy, keeps us spiritually vibrant. What keeps us very sort of fatigued or lose energy, leaks out, is holding on. The burden of holding on. And signs that I'm holding on is I keep thinking about the thing. That's a big sign that I am very attached, and therefore I'm going to become the opposite of spiritually vibrant. I'm not in the right awareness. So what we were told this morning, or experienced this morning, is that one of the most natural, deepest, basic, innate qualities, experiences of being spiritual or a soul is detachment, is the ability to let go. So this is always a key signal I use. And the moment I let go, it's like a hot air balloon, with its sandbags. And when it's got the sandbags, it's very heavy and laden and everything's laborious. It can't be light, it can't float. But the moment that the sandbags are released, then it starts to become lighter. So I really pay attention that I'm in the awareness. A sign of that is that I don't keep thinking over and over about the same thing. I'm able to let go. This detachment is really important. And that's a key indicator I use that keeps me very energized. It's amazing how much energy seeps out of us when it's back to that liberation, how much energy we lose when we attach, when we're unable to let something go. So that tells me I am not in the right awareness.
What does it feel like when your awareness then is constant?
I can't say my awareness is constant. It definitely goes in and out. I think what we're trying to do is figure out what can I do to protect or sustain that awareness, what kind of care I need to take or attention I need to pay. It's a priority issue. It's amazing how we can really attend to something if it's a priority to us. It could even be something damaging, but like an addiction. But if we feel we are attaining somehow, then we give a lot. We can't stop thinking about it. So it's really important, we call it aim and objective, but that I develop a very meaningful relationship. I value soul consciousness. Then I'm going to give it priority. Then the attention will be more natural. So we say where there is love, there is natural attention. Love means that which I attain from, I have love for. Again, I know it sounds mercenary, but it's the way we're built right now. So this is why there's love for soul consciousness, love for God. It's because I'm getting things from those states. If that connection hasn't happened for the soul, then no, they won't pay attention. They won't be able to stabilize.
So back to that slogan, to forget your attainments is to become tired.
Mhm.
So always keep your attainments in front of you.
Mhm.
It's interesting you're sharing that it is only when I have a certain awareness that makes me receptive to receive
Mhm.
attainments, what's fulfilling in the study, that connection relationship with the Supreme Soul, that it's fascinating that you actually need to have attention. But on just mundane things, it's really easy to sort of have attention for that. It's like as if it's now normal just to be mundane.
Because it's become normal to think we are a body, it therefore becomes normal to have worldly or mundane thoughts, to feel there's attainment in mundane things. Yeah. We have a very ordinary consciousness about ourselves.
So perhaps maybe our awareness at this time can't be constant, but can it possibly be constant for a few seconds? And a little bit more, and a little bit more, and a little bit more.
So we go drop by drop. Yeah.
And in this aspect that is very unique in this study is that this isn't a study of mantras. We don't chant mantras. But what's interesting about this aspect of a mantra is that when it's been used, and what I hear about is something that you repeat inside. But in the study, to be able to hold an awareness of yourself, it feels like it's much more than just repeating a thought again and again. What has that feeling been like for you to keep that constant so that, again, there is the meaningfulness of it is vibrant, and it's not something you're forcing. You don't stiffen up inside, girding down.
I remember once that this might seem like an odd example, but chai, the tea, and some like sugar in their chai and some do not. So someone was once sharing that they used to have a lot of sugar in their chai and they wanted to remove sugar from their diet. So they started having chai without sugar. And at first it tasted very strange. And again, it was for health benefits that they're removing the sugar. There's an attainment there. At first it tasted very strange, but they said then they acquired a taste and they actually enjoyed it. And now it would feel very, very odd to have sugar in their chai. So this idea that I can think about being a soul, but I actually want to taste what the experience is of being a soul. Now we have a very comfortable experience, very familiar experience with thinking we're the body. So it's going to initially take some effort, but I have to be strongly motivated. I have to feel that this is a beneficial thing for me. So that's an important piece is am I strongly motivated to become soul conscious? So then I'm not just repeating the thought, I'm a soul, but I want to experience that stage. What does it feel like? The experience of being a soul. I'm always a soul. It's not that I become a soul by repeating it to myself. I'm always a soul, but I'm not feeling it. It's become numb. So I want to sort of thaw out that feeling and become addicted to that feeling, just like one becomes used to, chai without sugar. I want to move away from, it's become so familiar thinking I'm the body, but I want to have more familiarity with the experience of being a soul. That's really, I think, our greatest challenge. This morning I was reading a signal that said the entire aim of the spiritual study is to move from body consciousness to soul consciousness. We have a lot of things going on in this study, but that's really what it boils down to. If I can make that move, and if I'm motivated, I feel the attainments are connected to that, then nothing is going to stop me, right? Lots of, mostly ego. So the signal then goes on to say, for that, you will have to be able to maintain respect. So ego is going to shut this down or try to. And because this means the death of ego. So it's going to really not be pleasant about the whole thing. And that's why we need to be spiritually vibrant and vigilant, because it's going to be quite an interesting journey.
Sometimes it feels like, to be able to overcome a wall.
Mm-hmm.
And what have you experienced being in this study of when it feels like trying to go overcome that wall, and it's not to be from a violent place, not from obligation, not from guilt, because this study is, most of the obstacles come from internal. And to think that being in a spiritual study, it's always rainbows and flowers. And I wonder if maybe we have some ideas that may actually be counterproductive.
Whenever we're doing a project or a program or a journey, probably the most important aspect is the foundation. And really, however long it takes, make sure the foundation is very good. And mentioning that because part of the foundation is, a big part of it is faith in the self. So I could be, going along, and yes, opposition come and it's not meaningful, but I have faith in the self. I know that I will do this, even though right now it looks very odd in this moment. I have to, and that has to do with the foundation. So it's very important in the foundation to recognize the self, to have faith in the self. Yes, I am going to do this. I can feel that this is what's going to happen. That I want to dedicate my life to this. So faith in the self is super important as part of the foundation. So when opposition is coming from inside, outside, all around, might seem very impossible at moments. It's like, no, this is what I do.
It's interesting because when you're talking about in the commentary, that's in the face of any of this kind of opposition. And I remember the story of this one character who had this big vision of being able to have a huge opera house. And maybe not an opera house, but just a place where there's this vision he has since a child, that to be able to provide that kind of entertainment, singing, music, and all that. And there was one day, it was becoming very successful. And there was one day someone came who was a critic and said, you're just small potatoes. You're not going to be able to get any further than that. And he was quite deflated. And a close friend said, why is it you just let one single comment dishearten you? And that was just really interesting. I was thinking so much about the foundation that you were mentioning about one single thing.
Yes, we know the story of, say, Edison, the invention of the light bulb, and how many times he failed, and yet it was as if he was destined, right? And he knew he was destined. I'm sure there was many times he didn't even know what he was doing, but it's just, undeterred, this incredible will and resilience, this vibrant energy to keep going. So that faith is really, really important. Can't stress it enough. We often say in the study, where there is faith in the intellect or in the heart, victory is guaranteed. And many times not knowing what we're going to do, but we have that faith, and that enables us to have the energy to keep going.
So this aspect of the role of the Supreme Soul, the spiritual parent, how does he play a role in terms of that faith in myself? Or does he play a role in that?
I think it's definitely, a key part of what that soul is trying to instill or share with us, or we even say educe, draw out of us, is what we call recognition. Recognition, yes, of that being accurately, so we can really receive a lot of benefit from that connection to that being, but also recognition of the self. I had no idea really about my own story or the self without support from that being. So that being really, anytime I connect to that being, it's like a number one cheerleader, really, just constantly this incredible confidence and support. Yes, you can. It's not a mantra, it really is a lot of support. So that being, very clear, but really, really supporting the capacity, the potential of the soul.
Thank you. So just checking in for those who are on Instagram or those on YouTube. If you have any questions, feel free to type in the chat box. But while if someone types, we'll keep an eye out on it. But this question has come in the past, but I feel it's a very important one, is that we often mention that why is it just not enough? Just be soul conscious. It's related to the question I just asked, to have faith in yourself, because we see all around us amazing musicians, amazing individuals of the endeavors they've done in their life. And the level, I don't even know if they ever think about or even have to analyze themselves. Yeah, I'm just thinking about, that I've had this incredible faith in myself. It's why does this journey have to be something that I just can't do alone, just soul consciousness alone?
I think it has to do with the objective or destination of that journey. Yes, there's many souls on the planet achieving remarkable things, but the objective, and we're talking about spiritually vibrant, the objective isn't necessarily the destination isn't necessarily matching up with what we're talking about here. First off, we're talking about a spiritual destination, but also it's really about the character of the self. So yes, I can do major achievements and really not have a very pleasant character. So it has to do with what is the objective and this connection of I, the soul, am happy when there is spiritual integrity. So this is why we say, this is going to match up with the intention or purpose of Raj Yoga. We even go so far as to say Raj Yoga is to create divine character. So the objective has to be very clear. Otherwise, there's no reason you really need the Supreme Soul. So I will have to go into a spiritual state. And what the Supreme Soul is being used for is to remove all the bits that are not me in my character. So very, very important.
It's interesting because the theme for this month for Raja Yoga students, I guess there's multiple themes going on, but one of them is that you deeply feel that this is God's task for your transformation. It feels like it implies that we often take on this, I'm doing this alone, I'm doing this alone. So even though it's me, I'm not sure. That's a good question. Is it very clear what the destination is? But this tendency to try to do it alone and how it can come up in all sorts of ways, in a sense, as if we haven't really got it, that we are doing it alone. We're really not plugging in, using the Supreme Soul, and he wants to be used to really help us in this journey.
If I'm not using the Supreme Soul, I will not remain spiritually vibrant. I might feel that I'm getting injections of energy, but if they're not coming from God, there's only one other place they can come from. We use the words Ram and Rav, and Ram referring to God or divine source, and Ravan referring actually to the vices. So it's coming from ego, and that can be well disguised. But that feeling of I have to do it alone, that's classic ego. So it seems to be giving energy, but like it's actually sapping energy. So I definitely need to be using the Supreme Soul as a strength and support.
I was thinking about someone like Daddy Jenkins,
Mm,
who was the chief administrator. But this is a soul who spent most of her life with so many physical ailments.
mm,
And yet she was remembered, actually known as having a love for God at a very, very young age.
mhm,
And to be able to have that kind of energy, because she really did, if you hear of some of her sharings, she really had so many challenges in life to be able to stay that spiritually vibrant.
I really was thinking a lot about all of the original students. The beginning of this organization was just fraught with so many obstacles. I mean, we have stories about, as we say, daughters in bondage and all sorts of things. It was really, I don't know if any of us can really imagine, but really so many challenges. But the fragrance that's left with us of the beginning of the organization isn't any kind of heaviness. This is a group of souls, a community that made the impossible possible because of the way that they were using God and because of the recognition of self. So these very incognito things that gave them a lot of energy to overcome incredible challenges, everything from a big lack of resources, financial and otherwise. So lack of resources, lack of any community support, lots of opposition, lack of skills. These are young girls who really don't know much about anything. I mean, it's just ridiculous that this thing managed to flourish at all. But they knew who they were and they knew whose task it was. And so this really was everything.
It's quite fascinating that how ego can be disguised in such subtle ways and to actually be receiving from the Supreme Soul at any given moment. Because we could often be using things around us as crutches and we don't even know.
Eventually, I mean, I think this is why the spiritual vibrance is a good thermometer. We say being an easy yogi, a natural yogi, a constant yogi, and very light. They sound like romantic terms, but they're actually very important in measuring whether or not I'm doing this accurately. This should be the feeling. And I'm not easy and light because God is, making the things happen that I want to happen. There still could be challenges. I mean, there is our karmic stories, but staying very easy and natural so we don't experience them as difficulties. They don't make me heavy, right? The feeling that I've got that support from God, I'm getting a lot of power from God and clarity. So the way I'm operating is really being transformed by my connection to God. And that makes me experience everything in a very light way. He doesn't need to actually he just needs to change me. I mean, yes, of course, that support is there, but as we know, according to the law of karma, God cannot do anything until we make a first move. So he can only give the return. So it really, to get an injection of energy, I need to do something first.
I was reminded of staying vibrant, spiritually vibrant. It feels like it also has so much to do with quality over quantity.
Yeah, that was a very big theme this morning. That and again, part of the way ego works is very, very quantity focused, very focused on outcomes, results, and the show. And temporarily, I can get an injection from that. That's how we functioned for a very, very long time. This is the essence of the Gita, to perform actions while being free from the result of the actions, not dependent. So I'm not taking through the actions. So it's very important that, yes, I've been liberated from those classic ways that ego operates, which is on results, outcome, quantity, show.
So, there was only one thing I actually remember from calculus class.
That's one more than me.
It was actually more of a spiritual reason, even though at the time is quite young, but basically a line is basically a series of dots. Just to put it in very pedestrian terms, was the only thing I actually really appreciate from calculus class. And I think about that often in terms of the study of every single moment. What am I creating? So I was thinking about quality, was that you had mentioned about foundation, but at every moment it feels like you're always at a crossroads. But it feels like you need power to be able to choose to elevate or stay elevate, or to not sort of lapse into the old, and the courage that's required to do that, to stay vibrant. And I was thinking about that every moment to be able to do that. So I appreciate when you were sharing about, I need to really nurture that foundation.
And yeah, give lots of attention. Physically, it takes tremendous power to move the body in a controlled way. So that same principle applies spiritually as well. It does take a lot of power to have that mastery over the self, to be able to sustain a particular awareness or stage will require power. But again, that's really what God is for, and what recognition of self is also going to give.
Wow. Thank you. We always seem to run out of time. It's a very powerful topic. I think it's a timely topic. The atmosphere is such that many are actually feeling quite affected by things around them, situations, or not even knowing what's affecting them. Staying vibrant within feels like something we all need to be aware of.
Definitely.
So we will have a little reflection.
One of the words that we use in terms of the spiritual practice, it's a very common one for many souls, is the idea of meditating in order to recharge. Feeling that during the course of the day, or in challenging times, complicated times, that the soul, that we actually discharge or lose energy. And so just like we would with a device, we need to plug into an energy source and recharge, power up again. But we are spiritual beings. So what do I plug into? There is something that will recharge the soul every single time without fail. Plug into that, and there is such an injection. And that single thing is the truth. To plug into the truth gives the soul so much power. The truth about the self, to really experience I am an eternal being. Nothing here in the physical realm is mine. I'm just a traveler through time. And at this time, my focus is on the home, that state of silence. And the truth of belonging to the Supreme Soul, God, the truth. That I want to know that being as they are, what they are, not some imagined ideas, but the truth about God, the one I belong to, my eternal parent, the Father of all. I want to truly know that being, that real connection is going to give me so much energy. And finally, the truth about the world and how it works, the laws of karma, and the period of transition that we are now in. It's not the end of the world. Although it might seem so on the surface, it's actually just the beginning. And that truth gives me a lot of power. Plug into the truth, letting go of the darkness. This is how I recharge. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. Thank you for joining with us this evening. I don't have any new updates, but we have our evening experience meditation sessions that we always invite someone to join. Those are on YouTube, on site, on Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and Sundays, Calgary time, 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. Also on site on Fridays, same time at the Northeast Center. And in Hindi, those are available on site as well on the Wednesdays and Thursdays, but also online. And so please feel free to visit the website. In terms of fall sessions, we hope to get those running pretty soon and post them sometime in August. Thank you again for joining. Shanti.